right. I hope the last couple days have helped you to start shifting little by little these routines that seem so, insignificant, but make an impact in the long run when it comes to making sure that you are as successful as possible in your goals. So today I wanted to jump into your evening routines. We had an opportunity on Monday to talk about your morning routines and how important those are. Now we're going to shift a little bit and talking about how your evening routines really matter on helping you not only to sleep better, but to prepare you for the next day. I think that both of these are like your top bun and your bottom bun of your sandwich. And I don't know about you, but I don't like eating half sandwiches, although I've had to eat it sometimes depending on what nutritional plan I'm following, where I'm trying to shift some things in my body. But I love to have a full sandwich. And so I feel like your morning and evening routines are those top and bottom buns that really matter about if those buns are put in the right place and are cooked well enough, then it's gonna taste even better. That whole sandwich is gonna taste even better. And like I say, always feel like that middle part is gonna be more productive because of these two top and bottom pieces that you have to put together. So today I wanna talk about that evening routine and how you start to shift that piece in order for you to become more productive in the long run as well. And again, I'm gonna tie it back. I'm gonna keep saying this over and over and over again so that it is drilled in your mind, is that your biology and physiology really matter in your ability to be able to produce. And so if these are things that you're not doing already, then it's time to start doing them. Baby steps, of course, but I encourage you to start shifting and making those small tweaks. All these things are little tweaks that we need to make in our habits. Again, I feel like the simpler it is, the easier it is to be able to start these habits. So let's jump right in talking about your evening routines. Now, so for those of you that have joined me prior to this training and webinars, I've talked about avoiding screen time before bed. But I mentioned the 3-2-1 system. For those of you that haven't jumped on one of my webinars before, let me just quickly just talk about the 3-2-1 system that Brendan Bouchard shares in one of his trainings. He's also a life coach as well. And the 3-2-1 system is essentially kind of a rhythm to follow before bed. So it's the 3 hours before bed, 2 hours and 1 hour. So 3 hours before bed, a good rule of thumb for you to do is to shut down computers and television if possible, so that your brain starts to acclimate to the evening. You're pretty much telling your brain, hey, it's almost bedtime. Let's start shutting down. And the reason why you want to shut down those screen times or those screens is because that light from the actual screens is it's confusing your brain, essentially thinking that it's still day. And so we want to go back in the day when we didn't have all these lights to turn on, and it's straight up like living in Vegas. We can make our brain think that it's still daytime at 10 p.m. because we have all the lights in the house on, we have our computers, we have our phones, we have the television on. And so a good rule of thumb is to start shutting down those things one at a time so that you're reducing the amount of light going in through your eyes. The second hour or the 2 hours before bed, that's when you hopefully can start shutting down. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I screwed up a little bit. The 3 hours before bed is actually the time that you stop eating. And 2 hours before bed is when you shut down your computers and your television. My brain is a fog right now talking about that. So 3 hours before bed, let me rewind. 3 hours before bed is actually a good rule of thumb is to stop eating at that time. And the reason for that, I talked a little bit about morning routines and how your gut health and digestion really matter in your ability to have energy and motivation and productivity. And I'll talk a little bit about gut health tomorrow. So that's kind of why you're preparing your body for sleep by shutting down your digestion. So that's why, again, you want to rest your digestion. You don't want to keep eating all day till right before bed. Again, that's going to affect your ability to sleep deeper and longer. So that's why you're doing that. And then 2 hours before bed, like I just mentioned, you want to start shutting down the lights in your house, kind of dimming the lights if you can in your living room, to prepare your mind and your body for sleep. And then 1 hour before bed, that's when you want to shut down your phone. And I think this is the hardest one to do because we are so addicted to our electronics, especially in today's age. You know, we can work around the clock now with technology, and the temptation is going to be to do that because, hey, why not? I can sit on the couch while the TV's running and I'm watching Netflix or a show, and I can be typing away, or I can be, sending messages through my phone. You don't want to do that because, again, that's going to affect your ability to produce. You're going to burn out before you even can, get to that point to hit your goals. So that's why it's a good rule of thumb to just shut down your phone at least 1 hour before bed. Second thing that I want to talk about, which I feel like we don't really talk enough about, is having a caffeine curfew. Now, I want to talk about the half-life of caffeine and educate you here a little bit because if you don't understand the biology behind caffeine and how it works in our system, then you're not going to be motivated enough to stop drinking your coffee. And I think, our tendency is to continue drinking coffee throughout our day until mid-afternoon, just to keep us going, especially as working parents. I understand how difficult it is, getting home. Then you have your second job, right? You're parenting, you're cooking, you're cleaning, and you're getting the kids doing their homework and whatever is required in the evening. That's our second, wind that we need, right? And so I know the temptation is going to be to, well, let me drink another cup of coffee, or let me drink another Coke, or whatever, or eat my chocolate, which also has caffeine, around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Now the problem with that is that the caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. So what that means is it remains the last cup of coffee we drink or consume anything products with caffeine, it remains in our system for at least 6 hours. So if you were to do the math and you were say, okay, well, the last cup of coffee I had was at 4 p.m., then you can see that the problem here is that that caffeine is gonna remain in your system until 10 p.m. And not only that, but it continues, in your system even after that. So, a lot of times people say, well, I am a caffeine addict, but I can't sleep. So I need my, and so I'm tired in the morning because I'm not sleeping well. So I need my caffeine. So it becomes this vicious cycle of not sleeping enough, drinking a ton of caffeine, not being able to sleep again because we're consuming so much caffeine. And especially if you're drinking 3 to 4 cups of cups a day, that means it's in our system even longer than those 6 hours of the half-life. So a good way to kind of start backing off a little bit on the caffeine is to, it's almost like an addiction, right? So we kind of have to slowly come off of it because we will have withdrawals from it. So I'm not saying to eliminate it completely, but what I do recommend is to be aware of how much you're drinking, and the actual recommendation is that we don't drink more than 2 to 3 cups of coffee or caffeine per day. That's 100 milligrams per cup. Now I am a pre-workout person. Like I like to drink pre-workouts before my workouts, and that tends to have caffeine in it. So sometimes you don't have to be a coffee drinker. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I'm aware that there's things I consume that do have caffeine. So I have to calculate how much caffeine am I drinking each day, and be aware that, if I'm drinking too much or consuming too much, that's going to affect my ability to sleep and also my overall performance, because caffeine is it really is a fake hormone in your brain. It's deceiving your brain to think that, hey, I have energy, but in reality, you're producing the fake hormones. And so in the long run, you become dependent on it, and your brain can no longer create or develop the actual natural hormone that you need to have energy naturally. So in the long run, if you can, to slowly kind of reduce the amount of caffeine to at least 2 to 3 or no more than that. And if you're willing to challenge yourself even more, maybe you do every other day, where you do one day you do 3 cups, the next day you do 1, and then 3 and 1. And that's kind of a good way to kind of allow your system to rest and also recover in between each of those consumptions. So that's a good rule of thumb as well for evening routines. The next one is to create your sleep sanctuary. And again, I'm talking a lot about sleep because this is one of the biggest issues when it comes to productivity, is that people are just tired. they're just tired all the time, and they don't realize like all these routines that these bad habits that they developed over the years. They're going to bed at 11 o'clock because they're watching a movie or show. That's their mom time, that's their alone time because the kids are in bed. And I know I'm a mom of 3, so I get the temptation, desire to have your alone time just to really veg out and rest from your day. But we got to remember that our bed, our room should be a sanctuary. And so I know I might upset some of y'all, but I recommend not to have a television in your bedroom, not to not have your computer in there, and if you have your phone, charging your phone in your bedroom, that it not be next to your bed. And the reason for that, again, is the temptation to grab it when we're in bed trying to fall asleep, and we can't, so we grab it and then we introduce more light and it's harder. Also the television, I know some people have told me that they can't sleep unless they have the TV on because of the noise or the light. And yes, our bodies have been accustomed to that. And so again, this is a small tweak. Maybe for some of you, maybe it's a large tweak, but it's worth doing because our bedroom should literally be for only 2 things: for sleep and sex. So no other thing. And I think that we've introduced these other things into our bedroom, which in the long run affects our ability to sleep deeper and longer, which causes us to be tired all the time and not be as productive. You can see the trend I'm kind of over and over reiterating for you guys. The last thing I want to mention, guys, is that this is a marathon, not a race. I feel like so many of us are tempted to work around the clock. No, I don't know what your profession is or what you do. I know for business owners, we tend to have a huge temptation of working around the clock. We could work 24/7. But we got to remember that no matter what our goals are, financial goals, customer goals, or maybe promotional goals that we have in our career and our job, all those things can be acquired. But this notion of I need to work harder in order to acquire more is a myth. If you want to be able to acquire more, you have to learn how to work smarter, because guess what? You're going to last longer in the game than if you are trying to sprint a 23-mile race. You're not going to finish. And so I want to reiterate that, especially as adults. And I know that we, during a time of crises, our temptation is to work harder because, we got to make up the difference of what we've lost. And I've mentioned it before, this is a time to pause. Sometimes it is a time to kind of slow down, and it's okay to do that. And I give you permission to do that, because here's the thing is that in the long run, this is a lifelong journey. Ultimately, guys, even though we set goals and we set benchmarks, we need to enjoy the process, not so much looking forward to the destination. Although the destination is a goal, the greatest part of this journey is the process of getting there. I talked about growth and how having goals of growth really impact our ability to find joy. And so if you focus on growth, if you focus on the process, the transformation, the resiliency that you're building through hard times, through crises, or through just the normal times, you are going to be further ahead than those who are trying to race to the finish line faster. And I know the temptation is going to be for us to compare ourselves and our journeys to others, but I want to stop you there, because our personal health, as you guys know now, our health is a priority. The money, the accolades, the houses, the cars, all those things are temporary. They can come and go at any time, even during the normal times of our life, during the normal chapters where there's nothing crazy happening. Those things, we can lose them from day one to the next day. We can lose our health. We can have a heart attack. We can get into a car crash. And so, I think this is a perfect time for us to really refocus our priorities. And I always believe that our health is number one. And if you are taking care of this vessel that you've been blessed with, then the rest will follow. And I had to learn that the hard way. As a workaholic, as a nurse that worked 13-hour shifts, as a mom to 3 children who works around the clock and is always trying to do more and more and more, I've had to learn the hard way that, you know what, if I'm not taking care of myself, none of this other stuff that I'm working towards is going to matter in the long run. So I want to be healthy for my family. I want to be healthy for myself. And so remember that no matter how big and amazing your dreams and your vision for your life is, you know, just remember it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Now that's what I meant to write, is it's not a sprint, not a race. It is a race. We're all racing, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I hope that this helps you today to kind of get you focused, reprioritize, and really learn how to, you know, enjoy the process of this whole journey, because in the long run, that's what's going to matter. You know, when you're 80, 90 years old, like when you look back in your life, what are you going to be most appreciative of? It's going to be your health. It's going to be the time you spent with your family. And it's going to be living with purpose and a mission. So if you haven't been doing that up to this point, take the time to really become, you know, introverted, you know, and really think about, you know, why are you here? Why has this happened in your life right now? What are the lessons I can capture from this moment? And, you know, how can I move from here with greater joy and purpose? So thank you guys for joining me today. I hope that today's lesson and workshop has helped you and blessed you in some way. And if you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them down below for me. I'd love to hear your feedback and figuring out what else can I add to your life that I can deposit into your life to bring more light and purpose. I hope you guys have an amazing day. See you guys soon.